Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where we are currently returning from our very first manned moon landing. Jeb, Bill, and Bob are on their way back home. But first, of course, they need to get into orbit of the moon. And they've got 600 spare Delta V for this. This stage is heavily overbuilt. We definitely could have lessened this stage and made the other stages stronger. There's no doubt about that. But it's fine. We made it. It's all good. We're going to warp forward here. We've got some time before we have our actual burn. We're going to hop over to prograde since this will be a pure prograde burn at the apoapsis. So that'll be fine. 20 seconds. 10. And 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. I wish there was like a drop shadow under this to increase the contrast. I find it kind of hard to read, but whatever. We're entering orbit now, and we can see that our apoapsis height is actually more than high enough. We are overshooting that a little bit, but I feel like that's quasi-okay. So from about here, we would just burn prograde to return back to Kerbin. So that would end up being something kind of like this, of course. And that would bring us back. We would want to drop this down, not that low. That's a straight up impact trajectory. We'd want to target probably around 30 kilometers. Should be more than fine. Okay, so that'll do. That burn is going to be in half an hour. We'll align for that right now. Oh, we're heading towards the prograde marker. Yeah, we want to just be here. Thank you very much. Okay, and let's warp on forward. This is the direction that we're going to burn to return home. Which, this burn is always weird feeling to me. But that's the way that orbital dynamics works, so we're okay with it. We've got 4 minutes on this warp. Make that 1 minute. I'm going to change our heading slightly here. We were a little bit off. And we'll warp on forward that last little bit. We're coming home, Kerbin. 10 seconds. And 3, 2, 1, mark. So this is going to be a 58-second burn. We are not going to burn out our side tanks. Those are still going to be going for a little bit yet. So that's looking good. Are we going to try to recover this entire craft? Honestly, I'm leaning towards doing it. We're going to have lots of Delta V. So, in theory, it should be possible. We overbuilt our parachutes specifically for the purpose of trying to recover the entire craft here. And that just speaks to how overbuilt it was. That we're able to get this sort of stretch goal going on. That's absolutely wonderful. And we're just watching this periapsis here. Down to 2 million kilometers right now, or 2 million meters, I should say. 1 million meters. Okay, that's just within the atmosphere. I don't care about this anymore at this point. We're going to go pure prograde, and we're going to bring this down to 30 kilometers. There, that'll do. Beautiful. So now we can do a radio retrograde reentry burn with our fuel that we have left. So the idea behind that, of course, is as we come in over here, around here or so, we would add in a retrograde burn. That drops our periapsis down, and we want our periapsis to remain the same. So we are going to bring that back up with a little bit of radial. Cool. And we've got like 1,400 meters per second here. So we can actually do a lot of this here. And the prison ship is kind of in the way. Let's zoom in a bit so that hopefully that's no longer the case. There we go. And at a certain point, we're not going to be able to get any more here, right? But that's fine. So I want a little bit more retrograde here. This is good enough at this point. But we can see that this is going to be in the atmosphere because of the apoapsis height here. So I want to raise this up to be about here. Then we'll toss in a small amount more radial. That's barely within the atmosphere. But that should be reasonably fine. We'll transition that likely into a pure retrograde burn at a certain point in that burn. But for now, that will be a good start. Okay, so some of that is going to be within the atmosphere. That's pretty clear. But let's go ahead and warp here. Goodbye, moon. we are out of here. So we just loaded into Kerbin. There goes the moon. Farewell, moon. Here comes Kerbin. Wonderful. So the coast phase is done here. We're going to commence this burn in about 50 seconds. Let's warp on forward a little bit. 20 seconds. 10 seconds. And 3, 2, 1, mark. Now, I'm not planning on ejecting these stages for right now. So we're going to move this up, and we're going to move this up. That means that this heat shield was dead weight, but that's fine. We fully expect that. And we're just going to continue to burn here. And of course, this did anticipate losing this weight. But that's fine. We should be absolutely okay with the 4 heat shields here. There'll be a lot of drag. Are we going to splash down here, or are we going to come down on the surface? We're going to land, almost certainly. Landing on land. Okay. So that's noted. And we're just going to burn out possibly all of our remaining fuel here. We burnt out our side tanks, and we could definitely ditch those, but we're not going to. And I want to make sure that this is up here just in case I accidentally hit space. There we go. Interesting that this burn time has gotten, I think, slightly better. But that's fine. We've already ditched the majority of our speed here. Or I guess the majority of our height is, I guess, what I should say. Not really the majority of our speed because of the exponential relationship between those two. But the majority of our altitude we've already gotten rid of. So that's absolutely great. We can actually grab a material study here. That's kind of funny. I keep forgetting to grab that on the way up. We should do that at some point. But now we have aerodynamic drag forces helping us with this burn. So that'll be good. And like I said, at a certain point, we're going to want to get to our retrograde marker. The question is, do we just burn out this tank entirely? And I think the answer to that is probably yes. We should have enough parachute to land this without any sort of powered landing. So that should be okay. And so far, we're not seeing any ill effects from being here. Although we are seeing that our periapsis is at 53 kilometers, which is not ideal, but that will go down as we continue to burn at this attitude. It's currently going up, but the periapsis is dropping. And very soon now, they're going to swap. Okay, we're out of fuel. And we're just going to park retrograde now. But we can see we are not coming back out of the atmosphere here. So we're a little high because of our lack of fuel there for that full duration burn. We're a little higher than I was hoping for, but it's fine. And that's just due to efficiency losses from being in atmosphere and not getting rid of these tanks. But I wanted to save the money, assuming that we can. And we're slowing down already. I think we're fine. I want to hop into atmospheric, or rather sea level altitude, not radar altitude for the moment. Why is this saying we still have 5 seconds of burn? We definitely don't. Okay, whatever. It's fine. So we're just going to hold this attitude now. And at this point, to be honest, we're just going to time warp. We can see that our time to periapsis is increasing. And we are just coming on in. We're below orbital velocity at this point. Although it's nearly entirely horizontal speed. So we've got a lot of air between us and the ground. Like a ridiculous amount of air. More than I anticipated, but that was just due to inefficiencies in that burn. So it's fine. Our heat shields on here should slow us down pretty dramatically. There's a lot of drag here. Like, we're already decelerating pretty quickly, 45 kilometers up. So that is looking absolutely fine. No problem whatsoever there. How much science is this going to bring back? It's going to be a lot, for sure. We're going to be able to rework our bottom stages, and that's very, very appreciated. We're down below 2 kilometers per second now. And we're 30 kilometers up. Our attitude is having some difficulty holding. which is remarkable. I'm going to take us out of physics warp. Okay, physics warp is the reason. Sure. So we're holding attitude here. That's exactly what I expected. This should be aerodynamically stable. It's just physics warp that was causing issues, but we're getting through the largest portion of our deceleration. Very soon now, we're going to be able to use our drogue chutes. There we go. And mains will be shortly after that. We can actually grab an EVA report from here, and that is something that I'm interested in doing. We're not going to fire our mains just yet. Now we can. Beautiful. SAS can go off from here, and we're just going to head on down. We definitely want to grab this flying low EVA report before we land. That'll get us an extra 5.6 science, so we will happily take that. We are currently about 4 kilometers up, still traveling pretty quickly. We'll wait until our chutes deploy. There go the drogues. And followed by the mains. Beautiful. Nice and slow. We're going to have Bob EVA. He's going to grab his EVA report, and he's going to hop back in. Magnificent. And now we will warp down to the surface, although we can see that the physics warp is causing some potential issues there. But it should be okay. We definitely should extend our landing struts. Wonderful. And down we go. This is nice and flat here, too. I like it. So we should have no tipping over problems. Should just be a nice, smooth landing. Beautiful. So we have some data that we can grab here. We can grab at least a surface sample. These are currently full of moon data, which we do not want to overwrite with this data. This data is far less good. But we can at least grab our surface sample from the grasslands. Yep. Looks like dirt. Cool. So we are going to hop back in. There we go. And we'll recover this vessel. Beautiful. So that is a big part of our cost of this vessel recovered. By no means all of it, but a good part of it. And how much science do we get out of that is the major question. This is going to allow us to heavily rework our rocket design, which is absolutely needed. Absolutely needed. So let's see what we've got here. Any moment now, KSB. You can do it. I have faith. Okay. 449.9 science. I had hoped that it would have been slightly better than that, but it's okay. Cool. So Jeb did not get a level. I'm sad about that, but that's fine. Do we grab aerodynamics here? No. I want to grab heavy rocketry, giving us access to the Poodle and the kickback and Pollux. The skipper is kind of whatever, but we'll grab that. And then I want to grab advanced fuel systems, giving us access to the big orange tank. Absolutely. Heavier rocketry, giving us access to the mainsail. I love it. And that's the majority of the tech we need from here on out. I do want to grab more science tech, if we can. So let's see here. Relay antennas. The weather analyzer is not actually useful for the locations we're going to be going immediately. There is the container modules, which would be nice to have. The mobile processing lab, which is an option. We can only grab one more thing here. Medium reaction wheel assembly. Yeah, looking through these, Prototype Octo 2 would be nice, no doubt about that. Passive seismometer, the Communitron ground, both of those would be pretty good, but the passive seismometer is also not actually going to do anything where we're going. So what do we actually need to deploy on Moon and Minmus? Ionographer, which is tough to get, which is, I believe, like over here. Advanced science tech. Yeah, the ionographer is something that we need to deploy there. We need to deploy... And that's, I think, the only thing that we're missing for the moons right now, as far as actual tech goes. We could go for retractable photovoltaic panels, and I think that that is a good call. Also, the RA2 relay antenna is pretty good. Both of those are excellent. This would also give us access to the Probodobodyne Hex, which is slightly better. I'm going to go for this for now. That's the only one that we could choose from that category. But now we have a decision to make. And yes, world first milestones for returning home from the surface of the moon. That's all great. I want to hop into the mission control. We could do this contract here. And in theory, that would be easy enough. So it just launched into a rendezvous for our current retrograde orbit prison ship. Like, we're sending supplies to our prison ship, right? That would be the idea. I'm going to build a new ship for this from scratch because we're going to need it. We're going to go with simply a Mark 1 command pod. We're going to go for something very, very cheap here. Actually, should it be automated? No, we're going to bring one security guard. One security guard. Then, we're going to attach onto that a pair of drogue chutes. This will be for returning home. So a pair of drogue chutes and a pair of main chutes, actually. And the reason I'm doing a pair of these is A, to block this hatch so that if the prisoner manages to get in here, he can't get out. Or actually, she can't get out. And also, we don't want to be blocking this up here. So we're going to put in a docking port here. And we know that this was a Clampatron docking port junior that we want to dock up with. Then, I want some amount of command and control here. So we're going to... I don't think we need an SAS on this. This has a built-in. But we can have an RCS thruster block. I'm going to do several of them. I think around here. And then we're going to have some RCS fuel tanks. Or an RCS fuel tank. I'm actually going to move these here to be, like, slightly better positioned, perhaps. And then this is going to, of course, return very, very simply. We're trying to do this quite cheaply. So we're going to put in a heat shield here. This is just going to be a ballistic re-entry. Nothing fancy at all. And this is the whole payload that we're delivering. So we're then going to put in a TD-12 decoupler here. We're going to put in a second stage, which is going to have... A T-800 is way overkill. Even a T-400 is overkill. I'm going to go with a T-200. We are going to need some power generation on this. I don't think we need much for power storage, to be honest. I suppose we could toss in a Z-200 here. Now, that'll be recovered, so that would be reasonably fine. And then we would put on some photovoltaic panels. Those would go, ideally, like here-ish. I don't like that positioning. Yeah, that'll have to do. So something along the lines of that, and then the engine for this would just very simply be a Terrier. So that would be the spacecraft. This would be ditched on the way back in, or we could try not to, but I think that we're better off using this drag. So we'll do that. And then we're going to put on a TD-12 decoupler. And then how do we want to lift this? This doesn't need to be a very heavy lift vehicle, in all honesty. It is going to be going retrograde. I think we're going to use some of our fancy new parts here. We're going to use this adapter, and then we're going to use... Actually, it's not that adapter. It is, I think, not this adapter. This one, and then this one, up to the Rockamax size. And then we're going to put on a big orange tank, now that we have access to those. It's got to be orange, of course. Gray and orange. Gray and orange. Beautiful. We'll make this just be white instead of black and white, or we could make this all up here be dark, but I think we should actually keep it black and white to match our monoprop tank. So something like this. The question then becomes, is this enough to get it into a rendezvous and an orbit? Probably, to be honest. This is 2.51 thrust to weight. This is a lot of speed. This is a lot of power here. This is pretty overkill. And that's the way we like it. So this is going to be a very, very awkward sort of craft here, and I want to do a center of mass and aerodynamic overlay. Yeah, these kill fins are slightly awkward as well. Sure. We'll just do something kind of like this for control. We can't do any coloration of them, which does make me sad, but something along the lines of this. This is going to be incredibly controllable. Too controllable, probably. We'd like to have more mass up here. I mean, that just goes to show that this is overkill, right? We can thrust limit this guy down if we wanted to, but I don't think we need to, realistically. The gimbaling should be enough. So who are we going to send up as our guard? We're going to send Valentina. She hasn't gotten any experience yet. So Valentina is going to be our prison guard here. And let's just call this the prison resupply ship. There we go. It's wildly overkill, but we're going to launch this and we're going to rendezvous and resupply our prisoner. Excellent. There's only one seat. You can't get out. The only way to get out is to return back to the surface. So now that Valentina is in, there is no getting out. And that's a security measure for our prisoner. Now, this is going to be absolutely insane. Way too much power. But we have to go retrograde. So let's do this. We could grab a surface sample, apparently. We're not going to do that, since we have no way to get out. So yes, you can see by how fast we're off the pad, this is a lot of power. So we're going to move this on over. Valentina cannot lock to any particular positions. Yeah, this is very stable, as I expected. Okay. We don't have a KER on this either, so we'll have to use this. Sure. For now, we're just going to park here and get as much altitude as possible. I just want to remain stable here. Okay. So we're going to punch up through this atmosphere quite quickly. And that's exactly the goal. Continuing to go up, we're going to target about a 100-kilometer orbit. There we go. So up we go. Hopefully we don't have any of these parts burn off, but we're punching up through the atmosphere very, very swiftly. So we're going to head to this apoapsis, and we're going to burn prograde here, circularizing that. And then we'll do our rendezvous from that position. So approaching it from below. Something along the lines of this. Beautiful. So that'll do. We are going to want to steer on over here. And this burn will start up in about 1 minute 45. We've got a large coast phase here. And we knew that this rocket was overpowered and that we were getting too much vertical speed. That was obvious. But we've got more than enough to do this. So we're trying to steer back at this point. The atmosphere is making this slightly awkward. We barely have anything for our reaction wheel. So that's not super shocking. But that is what our RCS is for, as well as fine-tuning our approach. Okay, we're in space now, so we can freeze our physics like so. Beautiful. And we can just warp on forward here for about a minute. 50 seconds, 40, 30, 20, 10, and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And off we go. Beautiful. So this will push us into orbit, and we'll still have a little bit of delta V left, which isn't necessarily what I was looking for, but it's fine. We've got more than enough DV for our rendezvous and dock. Okay, we're going to throttle down here. This is kind of crazy at this point. Cool. And we're pushing up our periapsis. We're now in orbit, and this is close enough. Okay, so now we're, of course, going to target MVP's prison ship. And the question is, how did we do as far as timing? I didn't attempt to time it, so it's probably not great. Yeah, it's not great, but we can definitely change when this orbit is occurring. Okay, that's only one additional orbit. That's not so bad. So we'll pull this back and do something kind of like that. That's a separation of 1.4 kilometers. Okay, I'm going to thrust limit this guy down to like 5% thrust. How's that burn time? 20 seconds? Much better. Okay, cool. With that, of course, it is time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, and next episode, we're going to rendezvous with the prison ship and get this contract complete. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, James, Shadow Wolf, and Lohan80, Rogue Corvid, Kentogan, Spartan News, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Anna the Elephant, Soccerman12 UK, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video. And as always, I will see you all next time.